Welcome back to another episode of Soflex Math. Today we're going to be comparing whole numbers, and we're going to be using a couple of symbols. So we're going to be using, you've probably seen these before, everyone knows the equal sign. We always have a less than and then a greater than symbol. So when we compare these, we're going to be filling it in kind of like a number sentence. So we're going to say like 3 is less than 4, or 5 is greater than 4, for example. So let's take a look at a couple of examples here. So let's just take some simple numbers like 31, and we're going to draw a line for a comparison, and then we'll compare that to the opposite of 31, meaning 13. We just flip-flop the numbers. So think about money. Would you rather have $31 or would you rather have $13? Of course, we'd all say 31. But sometimes that's a little bit trickier to see. So what I like to do is I always like to write the numbers vertically, lining up the place values. So our 31 and 13, because now it's very easy to see that we have more tens, 3 tens versus 1 10. We do have 3 ones compared to 1 1, but I'd much rather have the 3 tens. So if you remember when we talked about place value in our very first lesson, we said how this 3 is equal to 30. This 1 and the tens would be equal to 10. So we always want to compare from left to right. So the bigger numbers, the greater place values are to the left. So in this case, 31 is greater than 13. So we're going to use the symbol. We always want to point towards the lesser value. So we're going to point towards the 13, because this would read as 31 is greater than 13. All right. We'll just use a little bit of a bigger number. So 410. And then let's draw a line and compare that to 199. Now, a lot of times you'll see these big numbers. Ooh, I see 9s. 9s are bigger than any number over here, so maybe that's a greater number. Once again, that's why I like to spread it out, so don't forget to use space. So I really want to show that I'm lining up each place value underneath its partner. All right, and we're going to start at the left. So a 4 is greater than 1. I don't have to look at the rest of the numbers. I already know that 400 is greater than 100 because of our place values and our values of the 4 and the 1. So I can, before I even go any further, before I even look at the tens or ones column, I just already know that 410 is greater than. So I'm going to use that same greater than symbol. All right, so let's look at a couple examples where they're not perfectly matched up, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, here's what I mean by not matching up. So here we have a number in the thousands compared to a number in the hundreds. So we have 6,111 compared to 923. So once again, I really like to compare these vertically or up and down. So if you look over or at the bottom where I wrote down 6, 1, 1, 1, notice how I spread them out, almost overly dramatic, so that we can really look at the place values. So when we go from left to right, a lot of times, and there's nothing wrong with doing this, you can fill in a place value so that it looks better. So if you don't have any thousands, put a big 0 there, because now it's really easy to see that 6 is bigger than 0. All right. This will also help you to make sure that sometimes if you don't line up your place values, if you are not careful about putting these in spaces, you might line up the 6 and the 9. We can't do that because 6,000 is not the same as 900. So we have to make sure that the thousands are lined up. Hundreds, tens, ones, or however many place values we have. So in this case, now it's very easy once again to see that 6,111 is greater than 923. Even though the first number we see over here is a 9, well, that doesn't really matter because we can see that, there's no thousands here. So that's our third one in a row where we get a greater than. Okay, so let's look at one kind of the opposite where maybe our first number is going to be less than our second number, just to see that that's okay too. All right, so this time what I mean is that we have 3,020 on the left, so that's a number in the thousands, 4 digits, compared to a number in the 10,000s with 5 digits, 12,042. So once again, we have numbers written vertically down below, and as we did last time, I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to fill in any place values that aren't matching with a big 0, so that we can see that 1 is greater than 0. Once you do this, once you have your first one, You don't have to worry about anything else. So it really simplifies comparing whole numbers, because if you can just find the first place value and compare it, unless it's a tie, which we'll do in our next example, you don't have to worry about the rest of the numbers. So right now you know that 1 is better than 0 or greater than 0. So we can automatically say that 3,020 is less than 12,042. So let's look at an example where there's a couple ties where you have to compare more than one place value. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So here we have a couple of numbers that are both in the 24,000s. So when we compare these, we're still going to start at the left. So when we start at the left, we're looking at the 2's. Okay, that doesn't help. That's a tie. So 20,000, 20,000. Next one, 4's. That's the same. 4,000, 4,000. Next column, 3, 300, 300. So all those are the same. So these 3 columns don't really help us. Now we get to the first time it's a change. 80 compared to 0 tens. So 80 is greater than, in this case, 8 or 0, 8. So notice how you started at the left, but if it's a tie, you just keep moving over column by column until you find where there's a column or place value that is not identical or not the same. So in this case, we see that 80 is greater. So we can go ahead and fill that in as a greater amount. Okay, so I want to follow up here with a little game that you can play once again. The game is called Path. So it's pretty simple. You're just going to draw yourself a little path with 5 particular blocks in this path, or 5 parts of a sidewalk. And what you're going to do is at the bottom, you're going to label it least. And then at the top, you're going to label it greatest. All right. And then I put a link in the resource page where you can get these 10-sided colored dice. And what you do is you represent each of the place values with a particular colored dice. So as I did on my screen, so the ones column I would represent with a green, because I have the word ones written in green. For tens, I'd use purple. Hundreds, I'd use orange. And then thousands, I'd use blue. And the way you play the game is you go back and forth with a partner, and you roll your 4 dice, and you have to order them based on the colors. So when you rolled the dice, if you rolled a blue and it was a 7, that's obviously 7,000. If the orange dice was a 2, that would represent 200, and so on. So that's how you're going to create your number. So you can't rearrange the numbers. Each one of the place values is represented by a color. Then what you're going to do is you get to place it somewhere on your path from least to greatest. And you have to kind of think and decide, okay, so if I rolled, let's say 7,221, okay, is that a pretty small number, or is that a pretty big number compared to what I could roll on those dice? And you're going to pick one of those 5 places to put it. So maybe I'm going to write that one right in the middle. So 7,221. Okay. And then your partner will go and they'll roll theirs. All right. And then maybe you're going to roll again and you get your next number. So I'm going to make up a couple of these numbers just to show you how the game works. So with my next roll, let's say I rolled 1,112. So I'm going to put that down at the bottom. That seems pretty small. 1, 1, 1, 2. Maybe my next roll was 8,000 exactly. Remember that these are 10-sided dice, so they have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the digits. All right. Now, your job is to be able to complete your entire row before your partner. So there's a couple of rules here. Number 1, you can't erase. So if you say, oh, I don't really want that one here, that doesn't fit too good. No, once you write it, it has to stay. And then number 2, if my next roll was 7,500, I don't have anywhere to put it, because in the order, it would go right here. Okay, and that's impossible. So when I want to do that, I can't put that in there. So that's where I'd lose my turn, and my partner might have a chance to win. So you just take turns going back and forth, create your own color-coded system based on the color of the dice that you have, and then that's how you line them up to put into your chart. And the first person to get all 5 in a row from least to greatest would be the winner. And remember, no erasing. So there's also this game board template in the back of the resource book, or you can just create one on a whiteboard or scratch paper. Feel free to ask any questions, and we'll see you in our next lesson where we're going to be comparing decimals, so very similar to today's lesson. Thanks for joining Soflex Math.